All right. Got some topics as normal. Do you want... I liked yours better. I can't remember all of the ones you listed off. I wasn't taking notes. But, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Maybe because this one was focused on me, and I
Right.
wanted to talk about me.
Like that country song.
What's the country song?
I want to talk about me, want to talk about want to talk about number one.
See, you're at a summer camp, and
Yeah, that's
I'm
why.
just not.
That's okay. You can look it up. I'll spare the audience the rest of it.
I am in Texas, but
Yeah.
no country radio here.
Well, the refrain is, I want to talk about me. So there you have it. LinkedIn.
You even have the twang in there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Peter, you're going to try and build a LinkedIn audience. What are you thinking with this?
Well, that kind of gets to my second topic, but at a high level, it's been pretty interesting to watch you do it, and it seems like at the end of the day, the playbook is pretty simple. So I was curious for your takeaways, both from like a kind of a content strategy perspective, and I've tried to like get as much free Justin Welsh stuff as I can because I have this bad habit of like buying courses and then never doing the actual thing. So I'm trying to like just start doing the thing first, which is what we tell people to do with coding.
Yep.
It's what I usually tell people to do is just start doing it. But I'm curious for content strategy and then also kind of like practical stuff. I know you scheduled it, so curious if you just used the LinkedIn like built-in scheduling or if you had some kind of social media management tool. I know you had analytics at one point, and then curious like how you think that is translated into growth for Parsity or lack thereof, maybe.
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying I had a good run and I stopped. So if you look at my LinkedIn, there's been really almost no active. Every once in a while I'll post something random. But the reason for this is my time is incredibly limited. And yeah, I could build an audience on LinkedIn. Like that became apparent, which is really cool, by the way. I mean, I literally like within a matter of months grew by thousands because of, and I will accredit Justin Welsh's stuff. And I there's a couple other things that I'll tell you about that I think made it so that me in particular could do really well in that. You know, I don't think everyone could just take Justin Welsh's course and grow like crazy. But the reason why I stopped is because, you know, I did it so that it would be, to be blunt, a marketing tool for Parsity.
Right.
And it's still helpful roundabout, like I think, but most people on LinkedIn are bootcamp grads. So I was helping a lot of bootcamp grads from other boot camps, you know, with stuff. And I think my posts were helpful for them. And I think I'm happy for that. But by the time you're on LinkedIn, like you've already gone through bootcamp. Right. And what we're trying to target are people who are beginning the process, right? And that's the podcast. I mean, the podcast is like podcast is talking to people at every part of the spectrum. But I realized that most people weren't looking for boot camps for LinkedIn; they're looking for jobs, and that's not my like main thing. Is to like the job part. So I stopped because it took me an incredible amount of time to write on LinkedIn. And my like strategy was one post a day, 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. And I think what's really cool, and I will, by the way, probably go back to writing on LinkedIn at some point for other reasons. I think if I wanted to like shift my audience and think about the freed up type stuff, I'm just haven't like encountered, or I'm not there yet. But I think LinkedIn's great because organic reach, whatever that means, to be honest, but it seems to be easier. Like it seems to be easier to grow a following on LinkedIn than it does Instagram or Twitter. And everyone has said like LinkedIn and TikTok are easier. So, so I think the things that made what I was doing unique is finding like a really almost like a desperate niche, you know? And that sounds bad. Like we're almost as if like I'm exploiting people, but you know, desperate niche is like who really needs what you have.
Right.
And I think what I realized is, well, I mean, there's bootcamp grads are desperate for a job, and what I was giving them was content that would help them like through that process.
Right.
and if you look at my like stats, I'm like 90% of my followers are software engineers or bootcamp grads or something like that. So having a really good niche. I also do think my tagline, if I must say myself, I'm pretty proud of, which is like, I think the tagline is, I turn career changers into software engineers within the next 49 months. And I think like if I were to change my tagline for like a future persona, I would probably use a similar formula, which is I change, and I think it was like I followed by like some transformation verb. Mm-hmm. And then you take the audience you're trying to reach, career changers, right? Which no one wants to be a career changer. They want to be a software engineer, into software engineers. And then the piece that's like within the next 4 to 9 months is like so specific. It's like, oh, well, goodness, this guy must have a plan. And it's like, I do. It's just Parsity, like it's the program. It probably takes you between 4 and 9 months, depending on your stuff. So It's not rocket science. It's just, it's a catchy tagline. So I think that when people see the profile, they're like, oh, God, if I just follow this guy, like maybe, and they probably don't have that reaction. That's just me saying it. But like, it's like, oh, if I follow this guy. And that's what like attracted me to Justin Welsh, by the way, was like building a portfolio. And I don't remember if he changed his or not, but in the beginning it was like he's building a portfolio of like $5 million one-person businesses. And I'm like, oh, dude, like how does that work? So I think that the tagline's important, and then the audience is important because I since then saw, and I'm almost done talking, my friend Scott, he did Ship 30 for 30 with, which is like a cohort-based program with a couple guys who are super popular. Yeah, for writing. Mm-hmm. And, he didn't do that well. I think it was because like he was used to writing like inspirational stuff. Yeah. That's like just generally inspirational. He didn't have a target audience that really needed something. Going back to like that Alex Hormozy, like the starving market, like the drunk people at 2 a.m. who run into the hot dog stand. Like, right? He didn't have that, and so that would be like my 2 cents on like before you start, like having like a clear niche and a good tagline. Yeah, that's good. That it makes a lot of sense, I think. How did you actually do it when it came down to it? So I know you kind of had your target audience in mind. Did you pick specific topics? Like you're going to talk about getting a job, you're going to talk about focus, mentality, you're going to talk about et cetera, and then kind of did you do the content matrix type of thing that Justin recommends? Yeah, 100%. So it started off with me, I do think, and this sounds, I don't know, weird to say, but I do think I'm like pretty good at writing. Like overall, like I've got enough experience doing like copy for websites and all that kind of stuff. I think I'm naturally a strong writer, and I think Justin Welsh tries to like argue against like, well, he was a terrible writer at first. He learned copywriting, so I do think it's something that can be learned, and there is a little bit of a formula for it. Like even he talks about in the course, like having a good hook, or he calls it a trailer or a hook, the meat, and then kind of like the call to action or whatever the final thing is. Like every post had that same kind of structure. And then like that trailer was really something that you believe that, and this is just like regurgitating his course, but something that you believe that is like a controversial take, right? Like I think one of my most popular posts, and I'm going to botch it, but it's something to do with, like every line of code that you need to write has already been written, right? Like, yeah. And it was this idea that as a software engineer, as a junior developer, like you're not reinventing the wheel, right? Like you're just literally implementing best practices. Like you're not going to have, like if you discover something brand new, it's probably not brand new or it's crap. Like, and so like the point of the post was like, let me relieve you. And then like really thinking about the psychology of the post as well. And so I had this matrix where I was like, okay, what's the trailer? What's the psychology? Like, is it to teach somebody? Is it like an emotional appeal? Like, am I trying to like relieve them from anxiety? There's a whole list of other things that I had. And then I would do that, and then I would grab a template. So Justin Welsh talks about these, like basically creating these templates where it's like, I'm trying to think of some of these off the top of my head. One of these was like, most people say, but I say like something controversial, or like a list. Like here's a list of the 5 things that you need to like think through, or, whenever I was this before, I thought about these things. Now we think about this. And I actually literally took one of my funny experiments was me and a couple of guys were talking about this was, all right, I said, okay, for a week, I'm going to go in and I'm going to take Justin Welsh's posts. And all I'm going to do for a week is grab a post of his, grab his structure, obviously change the content because I'm not writing about solopreneurship. I'm writing about, learning to code.
Right.
And I'm literally just going to take his posts and redo them with my content, which he recommends doing in the course, by the way. He's like, find content you like, save it to a template. And so he said something about like, when I was an employee of a company, because his whole thing is he's an entrepreneur now and he used to be an employee, I used to worry about like what I wore, being on time, my commute. Now I think about, and he lists whatever his new great things that he thinks about are. And so I wrote, like, before I was a software engineer, I used to think about, like my job title, do I make enough money, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm a software engineer, I think about, more better things or whatever. And so it's like, it's sort of jacking his post. And so maybe someone's going to get mad at me for that. But, that one was probably a little bit too on the nose, to be honest, as an example. But some of them were just like, some of them were just visually similar if you were to look at the structure of the text. So anyways, that's a lot of rambling. But yeah, so I would, and that's what was hard. It was like, man, writing good posts takes a long time, and sometimes they're inspirational. One thing I'll say is, if you actually know what you're talking about, like, you'll realize that in the topic, whatever the topic is, you have a few unique soapbox like ideas or opinions or philosophies, right? And so like, I've been teaching people how to code for so long, doing boot camps for so long. Like, I have a few like soapbox opinions, right? Like, don't apply for jobs, right? That's not, like, cold applications aren't good, and they're usually controversial. Don't start with HTML and CSS, start with JavaScript. Like, there's just like these things, and it's like, okay, from that one opinion, I could probably branch out like 50 posts about, like, if it's don't apply for jobs, it's practically what you should do, or why, or like, don't worry, or you think about the psychology. So it's just like this pairing together of stuff. Last thing I'll say is what I love about social posts is you get a chance, like, every single day, perhaps twice a day, if you post twice a day, to like throw out an idea and like get immediate feedback on it. Like, does that idea resonate with your audience? Yeah. If it does, then like, man, use that in your nurture series emails, use that as copy on the website, create a course, build a podcast around it, or whatever. So anyway, that's my rambling on LinkedIn.
That's great. That's all really good stuff, I think. And I don't think there's anything wrong personally with like stealing the structure. Great artists steal. And like, in fact, Sam Parr from The Hustle has this course called Copy That, which I took like right after I quit my job. And the premise of it is that you learn by copying. And so he gives you a month's worth, one a day, of great copywriting examples, like from history, essentially, like old Rolex ads, sales pages, stuff like that. You copy it and you learn the structure as you're copying it. It makes you slow down and see what they're doing. So I'm all for that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm curious, nuts and bolts, kind of more in the weeds. Did you use a scheduling tool, or did you just do it all on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I used a scheduling tool. To be honest with you, I forget what the tool was. I forget what it's called, but it basically, like, I set it up so that, and this is the way the tool worked. I think Justin Welsh mentioned the tool in his first course. And when I say, like, I just did what he told me to do, I pretty much did. His Notion template sucked. No offense. I know he was a guest on the podcast once, Hala, but he's not listening
he has been
anymore.
on the pod.
I could tell you that
Almost
he's not
guaranteed.
listening this weekly, so I could talk some trash. But so I like made my own Notion stuff. But no, I use a scheduler, and what it did is it allowed you to set like what time every day you want to post. And he suggested having like consistently posting the same time every day, so that people, because you can like click a button on LinkedIn to like, get notifications whenever certain people post. And so it just helped people like be conditioned to engage with your post of like, oh, it's the morning, I bet what's the name's going to post. And I never think that about other people. So I doubt people are thinking like, I wonder when Aaron's posting. It's at 7:15 every morning. So get my coffee and read his post. It's probably not what's happening, but yeah. So I just did five a week because it felt like it was going to be hard for me to come up with more than that, you know?
Right.
But if I were like him, if I were like full time or had more flexibility, then I think I would have tried to do 2 a day, 7 days a week. And he has like a layout. He knows that like every Monday morning, his post is going to like have this psychology about this topic, right? And every Tuesday, his afternoon post is this. Every Wednesday, his morning post. So he just like knows every post of the week has like this certain effect. And then I think he does a thing where it's like every like I think it's like 10% of the time or something like that, he's gonna sell. So most of his content is just like, here's just good freebie content, and then like once a week or so he's going like, here's my course, you know?
Right.
So that you're like accustomed to him giving, and then whenever he asks, it's like, oh yeah, dude, of course that makes sense.
Right.
And it's just crazy how much freaking money he makes from just those courses.
I know. I think what I'm learning is like at the end of the day, most stuff is pretty simple. Like the formula that we've just been talking about, pretty simple. Like it's just that I think either when you're starting from the beginning and you don't have a structure, it's like, well, where do I even begin? Or you struggle with the consistency of doing it over time and you need to build some systems to help you stick with it long enough to see any kind of success. But at the end of the day, it's all pretty simple stuff. It's like losing weight or anything that we've talked about here in the past. It's like, you know what you need to do. It's just having structure around it and actually doing it.
Totally. So, okay, well, what's the thing you're doing with it? I mean, what are you, because, I mean, if you don't mind sharing, what do you want to build the audience around?
At the risk of shooting myself again in the foot about talking about something before I've actually done it, my second topic, is this guy, Liam Otley, who we can circle back around to, but his thing is what he calls a AAA, AI automation agency. And so I found this guy on YouTube, and I love this idea because we talked about this last time. I love internal tooling. I love automating things. I love doing those things like more than building like traditional software, web apps and stuff. And I've been doing that here with my current work. And so I've been thinking about like maybe turn that into a business. And I actually had this idea like a while ago, and I still have the domain for it, but I was targeting individuals rather than businesses who actually have money to spend. So I'm thinking about shifting, kind of like reviving this brand that I'd thought up for an automation agency. And now that ChatGPT is a thing, kind of sprinkling that into the mix and trying to give it a shot. Maybe starting with summer camps, because I at this point already have like 3 or 4 really good examples of summer camp related stuff that I've done this summer. But, you know, also like it's kind of a tech averse niche. So maybe just saying small business or whatever. Not really sure. But of course, like I burn myself enough times trying business ideas that I'm trying to force myself to think about the marketing first. And the first thing I thought of was LinkedIn, just having seen you do it and seeing what happened. Because I don't really, like, it may come down to like doing cold outreach, but I don't really want to have to start doing that. And so I'd like to start to build an audience first, especially because it's something that I have some experience with. So that's my thinking behind it.
I mean, I love that. And actually, not the AI piece, but I've thought about this before too, of like, you know, I feel like all the experience I've had with Parsity, like just using Zapier and automating things and systems and processes and SOPs and all of that. It's like even doing Freed Up, where it's almost like, and it really is in the same area, right? Like we're targeting business owners. We're helping them like streamline their processes by learning how to delegate. And a lot of the delegation just means like, hey, you got to get organized. And you got to look at, and this is literally what we have, like our onboarding course, like has them look at all the things they're doing in a given week. I mean, we actually even say like the whole year. What are the annual things, the quarterly things, the monthly things, the weekly things, the daily things, even the hourly things that you're doing, and like write every task down, categorize it, and like of that, like what can you delegate? And there's a few different actions, right? One of the other options is automate, for sure.
Right.
I won't
Yeah,
start.
it's a form of
I won't start
leverage.
this with you. I won't start it with you, but I really want. I would want to. Yeah, it's definitely a form of leverage.
Yeah.
Man, I think. So I feel like you're probably going to do the same thing that we've done with Freed Up in some ways, which is the starting point for us was not necessarily, because I think you're right. Like you got to do some marketing, build an audience.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for us, it was like, how can we just do proof of concept first? Like, which was like,
Right.
will someone give us money for this? And so we started by first basically creating the marketing for it and saying, here's the deposit, you know? So I'm wondering if you could do the same thing where you just like say, hey, this is the company. This is what we do. Pay the deposit and like, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, and that will give you, that's different from your other ideas in the sense of like, it's an agency is a service. Like it's an immediate like, okay, let's start doing it, you know?
Right. And
maybe
we've talked
like,
about product versus service in the past. Service, obviously, way easier to start because it's just your skills
totally.
in theory, or you're outsourcing the skills.
Yeah. And you could do that later, right? Like you could
Right.
outsource it later on. It just, if you get the first few people who really like you, like this, that's kind of what Scott and I are doing with Freed Up. It's like, hey, the first few times, like we're doing all the onboarding. Like you need me. Like I got in the car and went to this guy's office and said, I will teach you how to delegate to your assistant. You know, I'm like, in the future I can't do that, but right now I can.
Yeah. That's funny you should mention it. Liam, this guy, also mentions the same thing where it's like, you don't even have to like know exactly what you're going to do. You can just sell the service. And if you can't figure it out, worst case, you refund the person their money and you say sorry. But it's like very low risk in that regard where, you know, it's just you're selling yourself essentially. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, man, I love that. That sounds real fun. I'll have to look this guy up. 'Cause I think
he's great. We can link him in the show notes. And just looking, it seems very timely because of course I do a little bit of digging. I think he's been on YouTube for like 6 months. All he makes videos on is this thing. And he has like 32,000 subscribers, and it's not like super well polished. Like there's kind of a minimum bar that you need to be on YouTube these days, but he basically has an intro, and then it looks like he kind of switches to like, not quite a Loom setup, but almost, where it's like he's just in a little bubble and he's screen sharing and just like basically going through a presentation. And so it's cool because, you know, we have this idea, or at least I have for a long time. It's like, you need fancy B-roll, you need all this stuff. And this guy is just like doing it in a very bare bones fashion. And it's really quality of information over production quality. And so, that's another cool learning that's going to come through this.
I love that. Yeah. And if you go back to like, if you look at Justin Welsh's courses, he like I think in the first course I took of his, he was using like an AirPod mic, which is terrible. Like the AirPod sound is so bad on the mic, and he just like had Loom and like would like be clearing his throat all the time, like in the middle of the video.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't care because the content was so good. It's like, this guy has hundreds of thousands of followers. Like I can't not like listen to him, you know?
Right.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, that's like something. So I have like a list of business ideas, and that's totally on there. But I think now that AI is so big, like it's also trendy to say that you're doing this. So, well, I look forward to Peter, the AI expert.
Yeah, not so much AI for me. I mean, I'm sure that will get baked in at some point, but I don't know how much I talked about this last time, but I've been using a lot of Puppeteer, and to me, this is like the most underrated open source package out there.
What is Puppeteer? I don't think I know what that is.
It's a node library that lets you basically run headless Chrome if you want, but it also has like a regular version where you can see what's actually happening, but it allows you to write kind of declaratively, like click this button, type in this input field, navigate here, take a screenshot as a PDF, like more than you could possibly imagine, and basically do it all programmatically. And so
Wow.
my like crowning achievement of the summer so far I did with Puppeteer, where it was a closed service that didn't have an API. But I was trying to help my wife like automate this task that was taking her hours and hours. And so that's one way around like services not having an accessible APIs to use Puppeteer. And it's, I think it's from Google, if I'm not mistaken. And so obviously they make Chrome and Chromium, the engine behind Chrome. So it's all like, has like feature parity or whatever is like consistent with the Chrome API. But it's awesome. It's absolutely incredible. And so when I think about automating things for businesses, I think as much about using APIs that exist or using Puppeteer as like doing something with AI. I'm sure that will be part of it if this goes anywhere. But I like the just good old-fashioned scripting.
Nice, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I got to check that out for sure. Well, I'm like stoked about this idea, and honestly, I have like that feeling in my gut of slight envy of like, I have something I could do too, and I would do it with you or ask you to if there's a different season.
Yeah, if you didn't have several other businesses already going on.
I just think it like groups so well with Freed Up. It's like,
yeah,
that's the market we're already talking to.
It's like twins, basically. It's like automate through labor or automate through code. Like one way or the other, you're getting rid of these tasks.
And you need to do both, right? There's a lot of things that like AI is a long way away from being able to do.
Right.
Well, like
also sometimes it's just nice to tell a person, I don't know, like certain things it just wouldn't be good at.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
All right. You want to go next one, or do you want me to hit you up with one?
I can do a quick one because it's a good segue.
Sweet.
So I was just talking a second ago about like I've made the same mistakes like a bunch of times when trying to like start side hustles and stuff. And so I haven't gone too far into this yet, but I just today found this book called Start from Zero. And it's basically about how to come up with a business idea. So it says, escape the time for money prison and build automated income with your own business. So it sounds a little bit like hokey, I think, but basically it has these, I'll show you, it has like these, let's see, too much contrast. It has like 2 cycles basically. And it's hard to find this on the web version, but I'm on my phone. It basically says most untrained people do business the very scary and risky way. Create website first, which guilty as charged. I almost always do that. Look to own expertise second, make product or course around their expertise third, random acts of marketing fourth, give up and call business risky fifth, advise everybody that business is risky sixth. So that's like that. When I read that, I was like, dang, that's every time I've gone wrong. That's me. And then their method. So it's kind of back to your template thing. It's like wrong way, right way. Like you do it this way, I do it this way.
Yeah.
So this is the way he's saying: people first, problem second, sales third, outsourcing product creation fourth, getting results with first customer, then scaling to others. And so he gives a couple of examples. I'll give a quick one here.
Yeah.
Okay, people first. Let's say you pick a niche you know nothing about. African gray parrot owners. So he picks something really weird. Okay. Problem second. Let's say you ask them about any problems they might be having with their parrots, and they tell you the parrots bite them as a habit, and it's seriously painful. Sales third. You ask them if the problem is painful enough that they would pay to solve it, and they say yes. Outsource fourth. Then you call up a parrot store in your town and you find a parrot trainer to record video lessons on their iPhone, and you give them a 20% profit split for being the expert. Results fifth. You send the recorded videos to your first customer and they work. The parrot stops biting them. Scale sixth. You tell the success of your first customer as a story and begin scaling to other African gray parrot owners with that story. So I read this and I was like, yeah, that sounds right to me. Just from my own experience of like thinking of the domain, like getting really into the name of the thing and the branding of the thing and making the website, spending a ton of time on that and not actually talking to real people and trying to solve real problems that they'd pay for. So I haven't actually read this book, but I pulled it up and it is $8.98 for me after credits on Kindle or $14.95 Audible. But they also have a course, which is how I found this originally. Like, I like this podcast called Side Hustle Nation. And they had a guy on there who had basically broken every record in this. They have a course along with the book the guy they had on had broken all these records, like pre-selling software, basically.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't listen to it, but I just saw this in the show notes as a link and kind of went down the rabbit hole. But I feel like that connects a lot with what we've been talking about today, and also just stuff that we talk about in general.
Yeah. Did you ever read Lean Startup?
I have it on my Kindle. I'm like probably a fourth of the way through it. It's a very similar idea.
Yeah, same idea, which is like you start with a problem. Like theirs obviously different because they're specifically talking about like software products, right? That's what Lean Startup's all about. Like you find a customer, you then identify their problems and try to solve their problems. And it's tricky because, yeah, that part where it's, would you pay for this? And would you pay me for this, or would you pay for this specific solution? There's a lot of variables there in terms of like pricing, relationship, timing. I'm thinking about even with Freed Up, right? Virtual assistant. Right? We identified a few people that, and we did it the wrong way, not from that way. We said, we're going to start this company. Who wants our product? And we went out and started asking people who wanted it. But even then, it's like, yeah, all those other decisions cloud it. You know, it gets difficult. But that sounds good in theory. Like it sounds really good to start with a customer and ask them like what their problems are. And I think like going back to Hormozy, finding the starving market that can pay, right? That seems like a really good place to start. And then asking them like what are their problems. I think one more thing I'd throw in there is just my thoughts as I'm personally processing it out loud. Is that at least Lean Startup, and I think a lot of these other business books, imply that you need to solve a brand new problem that's unique, right? And that's where I think a lot of this gets muddled. A lot of this advice is towards people who are trying to find a unique business to start. And like the question they're trying to answer is like, which business should I start? And the presumption is that I need to start a brand new type of business and solve a problem that's never been solved before.
Right.
Whereas, like, I'm convinced that you probably should just copy a business and just do it better. Right. And I mean, in some ways, if I'm honest, like that's what Parsity is. Like our code school is like, there were code schools that existed before. There will be code schools that exist after. We didn't invent the code school. And actually, the first code school that I can think of that existed is dead. So it doesn't matter if you're first, and unless you're trying to build like a multi-billion-dollar company and like dominate market share and be publicly traded, like you don't have to be the biggest. Just do it better. I mean, we took literally our like fiercest competitor, which doesn't even know about us. We just looked at them and said, for Freed Up, for example, like let's just build a better version of that. And like with this automation thing, if you just do. It doesn't have to be a better version. It can be another version, you know? Right. If you just build an agency just like that guy is, but he's not going to service every small business in the country. There's millions of small businesses. Like, you just take the other ones, you know? So, yeah, I like it, but I also, like, I have to keep reminding myself, and that's always like a relieving thought, which is you don't have to make something brand new.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Lean Startup is like very innovation focused. Probably something I'd add to this cyclical thing is like, I think your expertise matters if you're not going to outsource the product or service. And in my case, I like doing this stuff, so I'd rather just do it myself. And so in this in particular, it narrows my options in that way. But I already am thinking about this is going to be potentially an automation agency. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not going to go the African gray parrot route because I don't know anything about that. I think the point taken is that you don't have to if you can figure out another way to get the product. But I think more than anything, what I like about this is in the first part, he called out like this common failure pattern that I'm very well acquainted with. And so that got my attention.
Dude, me too. I'm acquainted with that failure pattern for sure. I mean, DevMint was a great example of that.
Y'all got students though.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean, you know, we actually didn't get the thing that we were hoping for, which was placement fees from companies. That was the real revenue.
Right. Good point.
All right. So, anything else for?
Nope.
Okay, I just got one. I'm at 19% battery, so
No worries.
I'll skip through a few because yours are always really good. So mine has been focus, right? Like, which sounds so like I've been having a hard time focusing, and it sounds so elementary, but it's like I realize I need to keep coming back to basics all the time. And I think I keep reminding myself, and this sounds a little woo-woo, but that all of the good stuff that I have, like all the comfort and peace and relaxation, and not on a spiritual level, I'm just talking about like, it's Saturday, I don't have to work. Why don't I have to work on Saturday? Because I got paid Monday through Friday or whatever,
Right.
Like just practically speaking, is because of I put hard work in at other points in time. In an ideal world, like all the work I do would be completely fulfilling. I'd enjoy it. I'd love it. There'd be no difference between work and play, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just not the reality of my life or where I'm at right now. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And so I'm having to remind myself that it's like there's nothing more. If I decided to go to work and not be at my house, and I think this is probably hard right now because all my kids are home and my wife's home and they're all just doing summer things. And it's like, all right, if I'm not going to just be at home doing summer things, I'm going to go to my little office and WeWork and work, then like I better sure as hell work. Because I think my temptation is I want to be comfortable all the time. Like whether I'm at work or at home or whatever. And I find myself if I like, I don't know, if I'm like watching YouTube videos, this sounds so stupid, but this is just where I'm at. If I'm like watching YouTube videos at work and then I get home, it's like, I'm not going to watch YouTube videos to relax. I just watch YouTube videos, at work. And so I've been like processing this with Scott, who's like, him and I, we started Freed Up and we do like this like this daily accountability thing where we send each other all of our information. And it was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read Deep Work, right, by Cal Newport. It's a whole book on focus. Cause I'm like, there must be something I'm missing. And I started like ripping through probably a third of that book. And I was just like, dude, there's nothing good here. Honestly, I was like, this isn't good. This book's not good. It's not helpful. There's nothing new here under the sun. And so today only, I like decided to, before I even went to work, I pulled up Notion. I made a list of like, all right, these are my focus rules. And I just made a list of rules of when I get in my office, I have to set my phone in this box. It's on Do Not Disturb, except for my wife. If she texts me or calls me, I'll pick it up. I have to start a Pomodoro immediately, right? And I can take 5-minute breaks for my Pomodoros, but I can't pick up my phone. I can use the bathroom and go for a walk. After 3 Pomodoros, I can like take a break, but my break cannot be surfing the web. Like it has to be like going outside, taking a walk. And I crossed 3 Pomodoros and I was like, oh my God, I just like got my entire day's worth of work done. And yeah. I think that wasn't an awesome feeling. The realization was most days I'm so distracted that like the work I'm producing is a fraction of what I could produce. I don't know. It's weird for me to say that because I feel like I've been such a productivity guru in so many ways for so long that I'm like, how do I get back to this spot where I feel like I'm learning it all over again? But that was me. Anyways, I didn't know. Is this just me in this season? Do you feel this way? Like, how often are you just like scattered and looking at your phone and surfing the web and thinking about random things, or like how dialed in do you normally get?
Yeah, I think I struggle with it as well, and I definitely like the tools that help are always there, right? Like I forget about Pomodoro. I rarely do it, but when I do it, it's like really helpful. But yeah, I mean, I get down internet rabbit holes all the time. I normally watch YouTube on my iPad, but this summer I'm trying to read more, so I basically did like a screen time thing on all the apps and like took them off the home screen, so I have to like dig to go find them. But that's been great for the most part. But I find that I'm like I still want my YouTube time, so that's like coming when I should be doing other stuff like on my desktop. And yeah, I mean, there's just so many like little dopamine hits everywhere we look that unless you make strict boundaries like you just described, it's gonna be a huge struggle. And it is for me too. Also, partly the season we're in is like there's stuff happening all the time, and like
right.
And so it's distracting because there's like a lot of context switching in general. But yeah, I mean, it's just the age we're living in. I think it's something everyone has to deal with, I would imagine, especially if you have an office job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I think the crazy thing to think about is like there, and I heard on, I was already dialed in on like, this is the most important problem I can solve right now in my life, like from a few weeks ago. But then I heard this morning, I was listening to a podcast in the car, and it was My First Million. They're talking about, they had somebody on that said something about the 6-inch rule, which was like, I'm only going to do this stuff that's like 6 inches in front of my face because this is all that exists right now is what's like right here, you know, like the work that's at hand. And it reminded me that I'm convinced in some ways, not that like, and again, I think people would push back on me and say like, oh, dude, you don't need to be like productive all the time. You don't need to be grinding all the time. It's like, that's true. I think that's exactly my point is like, this is the key to everything I want to do, right? Is being able to have dominion over my own thoughts and brain and actions, right? Like if I can control, and it's not even like, control is a bad word, but it's like if I can focus my brain during these handful of hours while I'm right here in my office, that will then give me the freedom to not have my brain over here at all, like tonight or this weekend, and I can watch as many freaking YouTube videos if I want to like, yeah, I still think it's a good idea, a good use of time, but yeah, anyway, just some thoughts on that. If anyone's out there thinking that we figured it out or I figured it out, sure have not, and I can relate to all of the people who are hitting their brains against the computer because JavaScript sucks in their mind.
Yeah, it's very tempting as well. Like if you have something painful, like learning to code, to like you're looking for that relief, that like little dopamine hit. I think especially when you're trying to do hard stuff, it's tempting.
Yeah, and it screws you up. By the way, like if I start down that rabbit hole, then like the day's like ruined, right? Like if I like distracted myself with something, then I'm just like I'm glazed over. The day is ruined. And so it's almost like in the beginning of the day, you need to start the day by like being ultra focused. And yeah, anyway, something I still want to figure out like that. And I think for my whole life, I'll want to be able to probably carve out the first 2 or 3 hours of my day like to deep work. But it's like still the thing that I think separates myself from, or I think everybody from like what they want to do from like what they're actually doing. Is just, can you focus on something, you know?
Yep, for sure.
All right. I'll save the rest of my junk for some other time.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, man. Well, thanks for playing therapy for me for my focus stuff. Making me feel crazy.
No worries. No, it's a worldwide struggle.
All right. Well, as they say on My First Million, that's the pod.
That's the pod.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible. We should do